It's tempting to blame Cloud9's exit from MSI on individual player mistakes, or attribute it to something vague like inconsistency. Those explanations just lead to indirect solutions like needing to gain more experience or improve the player's mental fortitude. There's some truth to those things, but it's much more useful to identify specific, concrete issues to work on. Cloud9's run at MSI had some impressive peaks and some depressing valleys, so let's try to understand how well they actually played overall and where they fell short. Of course, my favorite place to start in measuring a team's overall performance is their advanced gold metrics, GPR and GSPD. Based on the margins of victory in C9's games and the gold leads and deficits they played with, their 5th place finish was exactly what their level of play deserved. A more interesting part of this chart is RNG's placement, since their gold metrics put them in 4th place, a couple slots below their win-loss rate. We'll find out this weekend whether that's a worrying trend for the LPL team, but we're not here to talk about them. Cloud9's early game in the Rumble stage was a bit below average. They averaged a 45.8 EGR, meaning they had an average of 45.8% probability to win at the 15-minute mark. So based on their early game performances, if they had closed out games at an average level, they could have been expected to win 4 or 5 games, which might have been good enough to advance to knockouts. But of course, they didn't close out their games consistently, so that's just an abstract takeaway.
Go down in the meantime. The team now split. TP's now coming in. Wade's trying to cancel. Can RNG just end the game? RNG going in. They don't need to beat you in a 5v5. They'll outthink you, RNG.
C9 had some early games that were total write-offs. We're going to remember the El Yoya triple kill at the top Scuttle Crab almost as long as we'll remember Blabber flashing to smite the top Scuttle Crab and giving up first blood for it back in the group stage. But C9 also had some excellent early gameplay, driven by aggressive pathing and effective ganking from Blabber. In many of C9's games, their fortunes were decided by whether they coordinated their lanes well enough with Blabber's pathing. When it worked, it really worked, and when it didn't, well, we've already talked about that. So we might be tempted to say that Cloud9's early game was sometimes maybe good, and sometimes maybe not so good. But that would be missing a very key point. Cloud9 placed higher priority than other teams on securing early dragons. They had the highest first dragon rate in the Rumble stage, and were tied with PSG Talon for the highest average dragons at 15 minutes. Dragons are valuable, and in isolation these are good numbers for C9, but in context, there's a problem here. The difference between C9 and PSG is that the PCS team paired their dragon control with gold leads, while C9 averaged a gold deficit of more than 1,000. In many games this tournament, C9 put such a high priority on controlling the first 2 dragons that they paid for it on the other side of the map, not only giving up Rift Heralds, but staying so focused on the bottom side that they failed to defend against the use of those heralds. They made proactive choices to invest time into the dragons and bot lane pushes, instead of rotating reactively to protect the top half of the map. The result was that most of their gold deficits came from their awful 20% first turret rate. It can be reasonable to trade a dragon for a herald. It comes down to factors like what type of dragon you're getting and how much the other team gets from the herald activation. Win probability modeling can help measure the trade-offs. Let's make some comparisons using the Spring Split early game rating model. Assuming you pick up 2 dragons before the 15-minute mark, how much gold is that worth in terms of win probability? Well, if you get the 2 most valuable individual dragon types, an Infernal Drake and an Ocean Drake, the amount of win probability you gain is equal to a 1,250 gold lead. If that Ocean Drake is a Cloud instead, the value drops to 1,000 gold. A Mountain and an Ocean Drake together are worth a little less at 950 gold. If you were unlucky enough to get a Mountain and a Cloud Drake as the first 2, that only increases your win probability by an amount equal to a 500 gold lead. For a bit more context, if you kill the first turret of the game before 14 minutes, it's worth 800 gold in turret plates, plus 500 gold in local and global rewards, plus 150 gold for the first turret bonus. That's 1,450 gold, which is 200 gold more than picking up the 2 most valuable dragon types, and 950 more than taking a Mountain and a Cloud. Obviously, taking the first Rift Herald doesn't guarantee an early first turret. You have to put damage down on the turret before using the Herald, and you usually need some help from your jungler to turn your lane pressure into enough kill threat to either zone your opponent away, or actually kill them with a gank or a dive. So this isn't just a direct Dragons versus Rift Herald conversation. But if a team drafts losing top lane matchups and plays heavily for control of the bottom side of the map without compensating by protecting the top lane with jungle pathing and support roams during vulnerable moments, then they can easily give away that chip damage and herald activation that snowballs into not only a big gold deficit, but all of the map control and pressure that comes from being able to push minion waves deeper and move vision lines forward. That's exactly what happened to C9 in many of their games. We could go into even more detail and talk about how C9 handled the minion waves after losing those side lane turrets. Hint, they did way too much freezing. But it starts from giving up the turrets and gold leads in the first place. There are other reasons Cloud9 struggled in MSI. Both of their solo laners had problems keeping up in lane, which is definitely not what you'd hope for out of Perks in particular. And there were too many key moments of slight mispositioning being severely punished.
The play, who's gonna get it? It goes to Blabber. This could be the team fight that decides the game, but already Tristana is dead to a barrel chain. So Elder Dragon 4v5 is the team fight. Canyon at 1.
But the biggest reason Cloud9 are heading home from Iceland early is the fundamental problems with how they approached their map play and neutral objectives, especially in the early game. Cloud9 absolutely improved over the course of MSI. They reduced their mistake count, found a more comfortable interpretation of the meta, and kept fighting even when they were behind. There are a lot of positives they can take away, like Vulcan's great engage work and strong all-around performance, and Fudge's solid Renekton games and highlight reel moments on Lee Sin.
Fudge has the flash kick, Dragon's Rage, he gets in, he gets Gala, and the Killer Instinct collects a combo!
Overall, Cloud9 played at a decent level at MSI, and they took games off the best teams of the tournament. Hopefully they'll be encouraged by that, but they also need to step back and reevaluate some of their core assumptions about the game, and improve on them if they want to reach Worlds and have a better showing.
Hello. Thanks so much for watching that video. I really appreciate it. By the way, have you seen our hot tub streams? Mark and I are doing hot tub streams every day after the MSI matches, and they're increasingly getting depressing because of how things are going. No, we're having a good time. We're having a good time. So be sure to check it out. I'm getting a bit of a sunburn. I have a sunburn right. I don't know if you can see. Does this show up? Does this show up? Anyway, that's over at twitch.tv/Travis Gafford. And you know what's awesome is we're streaming it on an Alienware computer. And you know what else is awesome? Alienware just announced some really cool stuff, including the X Series notebook. Go just do yourself a favor and Google Alienware X Series. Take a look at their new notebook. There's more information coming about them June 1st, so stay tuned for that. And check out their link in the description.